his red robe flapping around his worn flannel pyjamas in the cold London air. He sighed exasperatedly. Here, Wendy, sit here. You're not looking right. You're just not looking in the correct manner. He pulled his daughter close to his side, taking her pale hand and curling it within his weathered own, pointing it to the sky. If you squint, if you really squint, you can see it there, just over Cygnus, straight over from Lyra. Wendy placed her hands on the window frame and leaned out as far as she dared, her eyes trained on the dotted stars rising out above Big Ben, just barely visible in the distance. The dark streets of London lay out before her, bedroom lights glimmering in the shadows, the street lights rising out of a hazy evening like the masts of ships. "Careful," her mother muttered, his eyes trained on his only daughter, who had always leaned a little too far out of her bedroom window. "Careful, child." Wendy closed her eyes, feeling the bitter evening air ripple across her lips and chin, making its way through her thin nightgown. "You wouldn't want your mother to—" "Wendy Mora Angela Darling!" A shrill shriek filled the room, and Wendy cringed, her hands clenching. Her mother tended to enter a room in hysterics, and it seemed the older Wendy became, the more it rattled her. Her mother barreled through the nursery like a storm, picking up clothing as she walked, kicking drawers shut, throwing toys into bins, and pulling curtains. "Get away from that window right now! You'll catch your death!" Sadly, Wendy pulled herself back from the sill, her father rubbing his head anxiously, as he always did when her mother was near. "George, darling, how dare you let our daughter run wild, hanging from windows?" "She was hardly hanging, Mary. We were simply looking for—" "I know. The star. No one minds it, George. It's simply a figment of your imagination." She pushed past her husband and pulled the window shut with a huff, her ample chest bouncing with the effort. Once the window was shut, she straightened the beds before turning back to her daughter and husband. Wendy curled to the floor with disappointment and folded her arms. "He was just showing me, Mother. I wasn't leaning over." George, always the peacemaker, reached for his wife, who always seemed to be in a tizzy. "Mary, we were just looking. Poor Mary, always working. My darling, I love you. Have you taken anything for your nerves today?" Mary Darling looked at her husband for a long time before pressing her pillowy body against his. Even though Wendy's father was a bit aloof and her mother a bit of a nag, the love shared between them had always felt sincere, and Wendy couldn't help but smile as they wrapped their arms around each other. Her father ran his hands through her mother's hair. Aside from lustrous light brown and honeyed locks that fell on either side of her face, there was nothing terribly beautiful about Mary Darling, except for the fact that she had very beautiful children. Wendy considered this now as she stared up at her mother. "Mother, I wasn't leaning. I was looking, and I believe in Papa's star. He said he saw it last year as well." Yes, we all saw it the year before." Her mother was lying, and Wendy had a sneaking feeling that perhaps as she grew older, lying about her father's star would become harder. But she had seen it last year. Hadn't she? Tucked against her husband, Mary Darling continued warning him about the dangers of windows. Wendy looked over at him as her mother railed on, seeing his shaking hands and the slight quiver in his step. Feeling protective, Wendy pushed herself off the floor and wrapped her arms around her mother's waist, hoping to be a distraction. "Mother, I'm sorry I was leaning out the window. You were right. I was leaning out too far." Mary Darling dropped her lips to her daughter's head, and Wendy smelled the lye and lemon soap on her mother's skin. "Thank you, my dear. I'm glad someone has some semblance of sense in this room." With a hard look at her husband, Mary kissed Wendy's head again before retreating. "I'll have Liza put on the tea downstairs, and she'll be up in a few minutes. It's time for bed, Wendy. The boys will be up in a moment, and your father has work to do tonight. He doesn't have time to play." She gave George the look, clarifying. "Work that doesn't have to do with stars." Wendy resisted the strong urge to stick her tongue out at her mother, and she gave a submissive nod, always the good daughter. "And you are 16 years old. You should be focusing on your study.